Well,
Kinda-
it's good to finally meet you, dude. Like I know
Yeah,
we've
you
known
too.
each other for quite a bit, or at least online, and I think I'm going to be kind of doing this a lot with all the people I interview because I haven't met most of them in person. So, but yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for
same man. I've met maybe a handful of people. I don't know how long we've known each other. Probably at least 10 years, right? At least 10 or 12, maybe. Um, just through Instagram mainly, I guess. Yeah. So, and nice to see you finally face to face for sure.
yeah, man. I think actually I believe I knew of you before you knew of me because I think I followed you on MySpace back in the day.
Oh boy. Okay.
Um, and then I think we started talking when there was this Facebook group called Monument something art
Oh,
or
okay.
something. And that's kind of like, at the time I wasn't really like, I was delving into doing more freelance stuff, like artwork for, I mean, I've always done artwork for bands. Like I was in a band and all that stuff, but in terms of like getting paid. So like when I
Right.
started following you, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I'm like, I want to know more about him because, you were kind of, I think you just started Sumerian or working for Sumerian Records at the time. And I was just kind of like, I was following all kinds of artists at the time just to see like, what everybody was doing.
Cool. Yeah. Well, MySpace, that was a long time ago. That was probably what we're going on. Yeah. I mean, this year is honestly like my 20-year anniversary of McBride Design, I guess, because before MySpace in 2005, that's when my band started. So I know that that's when I started putting my stuff out there, like with doing flyers for my band and like our logos, and then eventually flyers for other shows happening in Albuquerque and those bands needing logos and me not really knowing what a going rate was for any of that stuff. So it was a lot of just like homie deals and hooking up friends for cheap. I mean, we're talking 2005, 2006 here. Um, yeah, and then MySpace layouts. I think that's where my name got out there. That I was like someone, a graphic designer that you could come to and hire for your bands because there were so many bands on MySpace trying to get off the ground, and the word of mouth, a band's hype spreading on MySpace was like contagious, like wildfire compared to now, because I mean, MySpace had bulletins, MySpace had top friends, MySpace had a song you could put on your profile of your favorite band at the time.
oh yeah.
And then bands would have their top eight of other bands, so it was so easy to be like, okay, I love this band. Oh, all these other bands in their top eight. Let me go check all of them out. And you could spend days and days and days just finding new bands and using Napster or LimeWire or HXC MP3 or whatever to download stuff, and or even MySpace, whatever you figured out. But man, I feel like with that point made, I feel like I kind of came in at a really good time, kind of right place, right time kind of thing, where I was doing so many MySpace layouts for bands and putting my name right there, like layout by McBride Design. Click to my profile, message me if you want to hire me. So it was a lot easier back then, I think, to get new eyes and ears, whether you're a designer or a musician. But that's when yeah, if that's when you heard of me, that's, like I said, 20 years now of, yeah, being at my computer and listening to music and trying to vibe out and cranking out JPEGs. So, yeah.
Yeah, MySpace was pretty pinnacle, like because I was in a band too, and we use that a lot to like create events and like get people hyped to go to our shows. And the same thing with the MySpace design. I was kind of I'm a little familiar with like HTML design, but like I know MySpace lets you just customize like every single aspect of your page, and I kind of miss those days in terms of just like we were just so like we had no idea like what social media would become. Like it was just kind of an innocent period where there was a time and a place where you'd go on your computer and you go log on MySpace and then you log off and then you kind of experience life. Now it's like
Right.
there's no
You're
there's
always
no
plugged in now. That was a double-edged sword, I guess, because I mean, you know, towards the end of MySpace, you're kind of just sitting there at your desktop, just like refreshing the home page. Like, do I have any new notifications? Do I? And now it's like, if you get a notification, like, okay, cool. Or you can just turn that off completely and then just check when you want to. So it's, I mean, back then, you know, it was easy to get sucked into it, really, honestly. But I feel like it depended on what you did with your time on there. Like, I kind of realized that, like, oh, all these bands need to hire a graphic designer, so I can just network on here. And you know, it's really, back then I don't really put my name on, you know, any of my work anymore. But like back in the MySpace days, it was easy, just like, oh, flyer by McBride Design, myspace.com/dmcb or whatever. And like, and I think that really helped.
I know you played in a band called Last House on the Left, and I don't
Mhm.
think I've actually listened to you guys, but you post every once in a while. You post like, "Oh, this is my old band,"
Mhm.
and as a musician myself, I know like that kind of had a big influence on me doing like album artwork. Was that kind of the same case for you, like being involved in music and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I could, maybe you had the same problem too, but it's really hard. I mean, it's all fun and games being a graphic designer until you have to do something for yourself or your own project. And then all of a sudden it becomes, like something you don't even want to, you like, just, it's like two, you know, magnets of the same thing, just opposed. You're like, I can't do it, I will never be satisfied, you know. And like, so
Yeah.
it's just so much easier to just find someone else that you trust to do that part. So for our album artwork, I never did Last House on the Left album artwork. I did do our flyers and our MySpace layouts and whatnot, but um most of our flyers. Tyler, our singer too, he did a lot of stuff too. He's actually working on like all the major motion pictures that film in Albuquerque now. So he's doing stuff with like a Marlon Wayans movie right now, and did a Batista movie and stuff. So he went the like stage design, like rendering out scenes before they're shot, that kind of route, which is great. And so but between us, we you know, knew what the vision was, and we kind of, he was more of like a straight death metal like fan, and I was like a metalcore kid who happened to fall into, you know, being friends with these dudes, and like them, we would share music back and forth all the time. They were all into like, you know, Vital Remains and Deicide and like, you know, bands like that, and I'm showing them stuff like As I Lay Dying and like In Flames or like Misery Signals. And so we would find common ground, and that's before like deathcore was even really like a term. It was just like, I mean, MySpace only had certain genres. You get like metal, death metal, hardcore, death metal, death metal, death metal, black metal, death metal, metal. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
there wasn't a deathcore when we started, and yet there were deathcore bands like All Shall Perish, Carnifex, you know, Suicide Silence, Job for a Cowboy, Knights of the Abyss, Rose Funeral, all those bands we kind of considered like in our little bubble. Um, so and a lot of those bands ended up kind of like coming to me for stuff too, and for flyers and MySpace layouts, and that's where uh, I guess like I got some legitimacy for like being a name. It was before album artwork though, but the album artwork started. Well, I did a few bands before I started working for Sumerian in probably 2007. Um, but more just on like a very casual basis. Like they would come to me here and there for stuff. I wasn't like an actual employee until a little bit later. But yeah, that's when I started doing more album artwork, probably The Born of Osiris, A Higher Place.
Yeah.
Their
Okay.
second album,
I
the
remember
really
seeing
blue
that
one,
one. Yeah.
the super mega blue cover. Um, and yeah, I did like Rose Funeral's first two albums. And then from there, it was, you know, once I started working full time for Sumerian, I didn't really do a lot of side work. I was just didn't really have time to, unless you were like a really good like close friend of mine, and I could squeeze it in. Like I definitely wasn't pursuing, you know, new work once I started working for the label. Like if it happened to come to me, cool. But you know, now a year removed from being an employee, I'm having to put myself out there more and see how like, you know, that whole side of the I'm not doing like ads or any like making Instagram reels or anything, but I am trying to like, I'm not pushing myself as hard as I see a lot of other people pushing themselves, but I am staying busy enough, which at this point in my life, after I'll be 40 next year, and I just worked for a company for 15 or 16 years. I feel like I just got shot out of a hurricane and I'm just like back on earth again. Like, whoa, okay,
Yeah,
what's
actually,
going on?
I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, like, 'cause I know you worked for them for a really long time, and I remember you made the post saying that you were leaving. And I just, if you want to talk about it, like, why did you leave? Was it like just kind of creative differences, or was this like change of
No,
scenery?
yeah, changes. It's well, to be frank, my boss wanted to move the company. Well, okay, I should backtrack a bit. The pandemic is like once COVID happened, we started working remote. We didn't have an office. Um, about 2022 or 2023, there ended up being like, and that's kind of everyone kind of scattered during the pandemic. The work from home thing was great during the pandemic, and there was a reason to work from home. And I don't blame him for wanting to get back into an office, but I just could not uproot myself again. Especially to Nashville, Tennessee. I was in Las Vegas, Nevada,
Oh wow.
my family. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so I figured, hey, this is probably my exit off the off ramp. If I'm going to move again, I knew that I just needed to come back home instead of, starting a new life, like literally on the other side of the country. Vegas was great. LA was great because I was still in the Southwest. I could be close to family and stuff. So, um, but here I am. It was very mutual, no hard feelings kind of thing. So I still help here and there. I get, texts and questions from the people still there every once in a while, like, hey, what's up with, what's this? They're asking me for this. I don't know what this is. I'm like, oh yeah, this is, I kind of point them in the right direction and still kind of help. But yeah, I'll always be, part of the family and, always love, all the people that I worked with and whatnot. So but yeah, just time to do me, and it's been a good year so far. I mean, it's the anxiety has gone from like here to like here,
That's good.
fluctuating. Like, you know what I mean? So that you know, just getting grounded again and not being so stacked up with work. It's a lot for you know. The more diverse the label got with its roster, it rewind like 10 or 12 years ago, a lot of the bands were kind of in the same, progressive uh, metal kind of realm. And then Sumerian started getting really diverse, and the team never really got any bigger. Like it's always been me and Eddie Killabong, just tag teaming everything, like just the two of us. So, uh, it got to a point where I was pretty spread thin, and honestly, like, I think I left at the right time because I think just I couldn't unless we hired somebody else like to help. I think I probably would have folded or just like had some kind of Zoom meltdown on a group meeting, just like it's like what's going on with
Yeah.
McBride? What's he doing? So yeah, it's been a good year of like I said, getting grounded again and spending time with family, and I've been gone from home for like 12 years out of that 15 or 16 years I was with the company. So yeah, it's good to be home.
Yeah. I kind of relate to, because I lost my job about 2.5 years ago. And then I was kind of like really pushing the freelance stuff. And then I was lucky to find a gig, my current gig. I'm like a contract graphic designer for like a music promoter.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
And so I'm working from home now, and working in offices all my life and having coworkers and having to commute. And like I've always wanted to work from home, but like
hmm
now that I'm working from home, it's I enjoy it, but it's the loneliness of like having like someone to kind of bounce ideas off of, or just talk
sure.
to, or change up the routine. And I was actually going to ask you like what your routine is now that you're kind of well, you've been working from home for a while, but like do you like
Right.
have a routine, or is it just kind of like sporadic? Like, you wake up when you wake up and work on
I'm
stuff.
I'm an early riser. I'm up naturally anywhere between like 5:30 and 6:30 on most days. Today I actually slept until 9:45, which is some kind of, I think someone hit me with a tranquilizer dart last night or something, but that's insane. To sleep in past 8 is like holy shit. But I go to sleep really early too. I'm in bed probably by 9 or 10. Like I'm 39, so I'm kind of just slipping into that stage of my life where like pretty soon I'll be taking naps. I'm not taking naps yet, but yeah, that's next probably. But yeah, get my coffee, get going, check my emails while I'm drinking my coffee. I mean, it was, my routine was a lot different at Sumerian because it was more like wake up, see all the group texts that I missed, to the entire staff at like 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and I'm just seeing that like Jesus Christ, oh my God, and just like wake up with anxiety, and then get coffee thinking that's gonna like make it better, and which it doesn't. It just, if you already have anxiety, don't drink oat milk lattes. But yeah, and then I would be like frantic, and there was no 8-hour days. There was no, when you're working from home for a record label, you're not working 9 to 5 or 10 to 6. You're working the entire time you're awake, off and on, sure, but it starts when you wake up and the second you look at your phone, like, because you're seeing all the texts that you got from coworkers and your boss and all the emails that you missed. As soon as you signed off last night, 5 minutes later, after you stopped working last night, you got an email about something that needs to be done right then. So you just start your day doing that, and it's a lot. But now, honestly, I'm struggling because every Monday morning at like 9 or 10, I get this rush of anxiety like I used to, because I knew I had to check my emails for the week. And if it's, we're doing this on a Wednesday afternoon, if I had nothing going on right now, it's work hours. My body's just programmed to just be stressed out working on something. It's hard if I don't have anything going on. I need to find something to keep myself occupied, and video games are cool. I just played Black Myth Wukong for 5 months straight, I think, like off and on
Okay.
to kind of try to be my escape. And I like 100% completed the game, and now I don't know what to do with my life. So I'm just like, I need to find a new video game, or I need to start working out, or I need to find something to do to preoccupy myself during office hours, because I'm so ingrained to be in that zone during the week. If it's a Saturday afternoon, I have no problem just hanging out on the couch doing nothing. But yeah, it's weird. I'm really trying to reprogram my brain in that regard.
Yeah, there's definitely like a misconception of like, people, when they find out you're a artist slash graphic designer, it's like, oh, it's all fun. You just, creating stuff. But like you said, like I'm kind of, I get anxiety too when I have to work on something, I have to create something, because it's like you're not only dealing with what the client wants or what your boss wants, but also your own, like, you want to be satisfied with what you're putting out. And like, if you're not there, then you get all depressed and like, this like sucks. And like, this is not where I wanted it to be, but it needs to get done. So I'm just going to send it out. And that like kind of starts to like mess with you after a while.
Or
And
the complete opposite, where you pump out something you're really stoked about, and the band and your boss just don't get it, or they're just not feeling it, or that was the agreed upon idea. You executed it. You're happy. You send it out. Oh, I had a different idea the other night. What if we just completely just copy this thing I found on Google or on Pinterest, and like,
yeah, it's like you're stressing about like, are they even gonna like this? I hope they like it because this is awesome. And then it's just like your worst fears come to life, and you're just like, crap. Like, yeah,
yeah, I
it's a
think
struggle,
that
man.
happened. I think you, as a designer, need to be cautious when it comes to that, because the more cooks in the kitchen, the more, you know, input people are going to have. You kind of have to weigh that out, like what the dynamic is of the client, because most of the time you're only talking to one member of the band. If they don't have a manager, you're talking to one person in the band. And the whole time you're working on the project, you don't know if that person is showing the other members of the band, or if you're just dealing with the bass player, for example. No offense to bass players, but there's been plenty of times where I'll be working with this person thinking that they're keeping everyone in the loop. We get to the finish line, I think we're done. All right, cool. Let me show the other guys. Let me see what the other guys have to say. Let me send this to the group chat and see what they think. And you're like, let me show this to my girlfriend. Let me show this to my roommate. Let me show this. This is why band managers are so important. Like, if you're a band and you're serious and you have traction and you're going somewhere, if you don't have a manager, if you don't think that's something worth having, you're not going to go anywhere. Like, I don't know any band. I know bands that have got to where they have with managers and then got big enough to the point where they can self-manage themselves, and they can do all right. They can coast that, kind of coast that wave, and then maybe they start slipping down, be like, maybe it's time to get a manager again, But man, that's what I'm saying. You got to gauge that dynamic. Is this person I'm talking to showing everyone in the band, or are you in a group chat with all 5 people and you think everyone's paying attention the whole time, and then it turns out homeboy was out of town for a week and he didn't have reception and he's just now seeing everything, and then he likes the draft that you sent 3 days ago that you didn't save because you kept working on it because all the other guys had notes and you thought everyone is participating. As you can see, I have a lot of trauma that I have.
Oh no, yeah, there definitely is a lack of like professionalism in bands, even like big bands. Like, I haven't really worked with a lot of bigger bands, but bands that, like, okay, they've played in Megadeth, and also I'm thinking there's a certain, like, okay, there's going to be a certain professionalism, whatever, but then sometimes
realistic expectations, right? You'd think, and that is the case a lot of the times. Like, I'll be straight up, the best band I've ever worked with is Between the Buried and Me, because you're dealing with Tommy Rogers, the singer, the most chilled, laid back dude I've ever worked with. And he'll tell you like it is. He's not going to like sugarcoat anything, but he was kind of like, I'm sure the other guys have input when it comes to art, but it really seemed like after all these years, they just like, here, you're the art guy. We trust you with the vision of the band. And that's so if you can, as a band, like, if you have someone that has artistic abilities and you can just trust them and kind of nudge them in the right direction, like, just let them run with it. You know what I mean? And if they're not the right person for the job, pay somebody else. But it's so important for a band to be either on the same page creatively, or to know that, like, some people just aren't creative. Some people don't have an eye for certain things and they would rather not be a part of that conversation. So if you're not that kind of person, just kind of politely check out and let the other people run it. You know what I mean? But everyone's entitled to an opinion, and everyone has, there's been some great left out of nowhere ideas that have come in randomly from people that have been, oh yeah, that just, fixed everything or whatever. But kind of clear the lane, know your role if you're in a band. And, because there's been so many experiences where, like, things are going great until the one person weighs in, and it just, the wrench in the machine, you're just like, and then it just deflates. You can tell it deflates the other band. It deflates the other band members as well as, myself. So, and then you're back to square one, or you're back to a draft that you didn't save, like I said, and you're trying to, like, you and I will probably work a lot different. 3D, with what I can't change the camera angle of what I'm making in Photoshop. And the people that work in 3D have the ability to zoom in, zoom out, move around,
Yeah.
change the lighting easily. Like, that's, and I'm sure it's I mean, I've tried to open Blender. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to even begin. I watched a tutorial. I tried to follow along. I don't think my computer can even handle it. It got all, I'm like, oh, great, here we go. So I have a lot of respect for, the stuff that you do. And I wish I had that in my, like, repertoire. And so kind of back to that, like, if a band, asked me for something, when I was working with the label and they had a certain idea, I would know right away if I was the person for the job or not. I'm not going to be selfish and try to do every single album cover myself. Like I hired out like a lot of stuff, and you know, tracking down the artist and making sure the band likes that person is more of like an art director role. You know, that was a whole other facet of the job too, which is keeping in touch of people from around the world at certain times and chatting with them, and you know, middlemanning that so they don't have to deal with the band directly if they don't want to. I can kind of just, you know, take the notes from the band, absorb them, take art, you know, kind of middleman it. But you know, I don't know where this leads back to the original question, but yeah, just, you know, just I guess my point is just like know where you fit in, and as a designer, like, you know what you can and can't do and be honest about it. You know, if someone comes to me asking for something that obviously needs to be illustrated and that I can't draw, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, sure, let me just take your money and dive right in and then show them like, you know, I'm going to be like, sorry guys, I can't. Let me try to find someone I can collaborate with, or if that's not in your budget to pay two people, I'm happy to just send you their way. Just, you know, yeah, just know your strengths.
Yeah,
Let's leave it at that.
I think that's kind of like I've learned over the last like 10 years, because like I've been experimenting with 3D and all that stuff, but like now like when I show a band like a concept, if it's not a shitty sketch, which I kind of prefer sometimes, just showing like a crappy pencil sketch
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
composition, because then you can kind of change it as you go forward. But a lot of the times I'll use like DAZ 3D, I'll render the figures and just do like a very basic pose, and then I'll like send the band like, this is like the figure I'll be using, and imagine it being badass or something. And most of the time it works, but sometimes I dig myself, in a hole, because it's like, oh shit, now I've already said I was going to do it this way, and now I can't like make it different. So then I'm like,
if you
this
have
idea
yeah
didn't
if
work.
you have new ideas along the way, you're scared to implement them. Sure. I mean, but yeah, I ran into that the other day. I mean, I sent off something, and then like an hour later I was just wandering around. I was like, oh, I should add this, and I added something and I sent it back, and it's like, oh, I already sent him. You know, I was talking to a manager, like, I already sent the rapper the one he sent 30 minutes ago. He likes that. So, you know, don't change it. When I was working, you know, a lot of times, yeah, once you get into that like really like back and forth revision state, if you have any new ideas and you implement them, it's like, oh, what are you trying to do, Brandon? You're trying to wait, like, I liked it. They get like weird about it. Like, no, I didn't ask for that. Like, no. So yeah, and there's the whole balance of like, yeah, when do you send something to the client, and and if you tell them, hey, this is kind of rough still, there's still some things I want to do, they might just fall in love with it as is and they don't want you to do anything else to it. Or, you know, I mean, or another, like plenty of other situations. But yeah, that can kind of, you know, shoot yourself in the foot, I guess. There's a lot of ways to shoot yourself in the foot as a graphic designer. But yeah, like what we've been talking about, like being scared to make revisions that you think are beneficial to the final product because the client is already liking the direction, or vice versa. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah, there's a infamous album cover. It was Iron Maiden's Dance of Death, and what they used was basically like the artist was like a painter, like a traditional painter, and he
Mm.
used like Poser, and he used Poser to kind of like basically like kind of pose all the figures, and he was gonna like paint over it or just use as reference, and then actually do a badass painting. But
Oh,
he sent that rough concept to the band, and Steve Harris, the bassist, who's like makes all the decisions, was like, "Oh, we love it. We love that cover just as it is." So the guy was like so like disappointed, and he ended up like leaving his name off the album
oh my God.
credits, because he didn't want to be associated with that, because his artwork is so badass. But then it's like, you look at, I don't know if you've seen it, but I mean, it looks horrible, dude. Like
Is this recent? How recent was this?
this is probably like over 20 years. This is a
Okay.
while ago, yeah. So,
Oh my
but
God.
I
Yeah,
remember
so
getting it.
Poser 20 years ago, I know exactly how those figures look, and it's just like, you know what I mean? Like that's, I mean, no one uses. Is Poser still a thing? Is that still a
It's
program?
still around because I used to actually use that quite a bit before I discovered Daz, and like they don't update it. That's the problem. Is like they've had the same like
Yeah, the
it's
same
like
bald guys that just forever. Yeah,
yeah, I mean it's good for like I guess setting up some lighting, some basic lighting and some shapes, whatever. But like for the most part, like I think like even Daz 3D is very rudimentary in terms of just like anybody can use it. It's just kind of delving into it a little bit more because you buy the assets, you can light the scenes the way you want them. And I kind of like it because it's just like I mean I've been doing ZBrush too, like creating
cool.
assets, but that just it's time consuming and it's a lot of learning how to do something. So it's like easier if you're just doing a project for a band to like render something and in
You
Daz.
need a pretty powerful rig to even do stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you can't just do that on a laptop or anything. Yeah.
Actually, you'd be surprised. Like I have a Mac Mini. I think it has like
Okay.
the N2 chip or whatever, but
Yeah, yeah.
it runs DAS and ZBrush actually doesn't use a lot of memory. Like it's pretty basic. I think when
Okay.
you start doing more like Blender, doing video editing, that's when you
Yeah,
need
yeah.
a good computer with like a lot of horsepower. But that's a whole other doing video and like I've tried to kind of dip my toe in there because to get more jobs. A lot of
Sure.
bands want videos and
Oh
all
yeah.
that stuff.
Can you animate our album cover that you just made? It's like, well, I mean, can you? Have you figured that out? Or are you still?
Um, well,
I've seen
there's
your stuff move. Are you doing that?
yeah, there are some basic stuff like I'll download some free apps. I can add like some kind of effects to like a still picture.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
I
yeah.
kind of have the basic idea of how to do it. It's with After Effects, but it's just I open After Effects and I'm just like, oh crap, it's like a math equation basically.
So
Like,
that's actually another issue I ran into working at a label is after like album art and anything like that I would have to hand off or like a tour poster, for example. I would have to make that kind of stuff knowing that the video department was going to get it and need to make stuff with it. So you really can't like flatten and like filter gallery stuff because then they're going to ask like, can I get this all separated? And it's like I had to do all that to get it to look the way it does. So then you start thinking it's like, all right, someone else that doesn't know Photoshop is going to have to make sense of this file, and so that kind of holds you back in a way. But I got kind of used to it. But yeah, I mean, ideal world, perfect world, I would be able to do all that kind of stuff with my own artwork. But uh, and my brain's just a little too old to learn new stuff, honestly. Like to be completely honest, and I really do need to find like someone like a go-to like animator person because I don't have a video department to go to anymore at Sumerian. I don't because it used to be just like, hey, can you throw it off to a couple of guys and they do something with it. But yeah, I need to find a because for a designer to be able to like bundle all that stuff together from the get-go like is really important. You can make so much more money that way, knowing that you can deliver, you know, more than what they're asking for. If someone's just like, yeah, we need an album cover and a logo, for our single. They're like, all right, cool, great. Well, you're probably gonna need some social assets for that too. You're probably gonna need some like headers for Meta and X or Twitter and Facebook or whatever the hell, and um, and then put a nice round number on that bundle and show them what they could be. Here's what I would do for what you're asking, but if you want all this other stuff too, the kind of not necessarily like illusion of saving money, but this is how business works. Like, the more you're getting at once, like the more you should be able to save. So I think that's something a lot of designers kind of overlook too. And the importance of if you can't do something, have a good, solid, reliable person that can and work together with them. That's extremely important. But I need to find that person right now. I need to find that animator or that, person that can turn
I,
something into a
I
video.
actually know a guy. I could actually send you his information. His name's Tullius. He's actually from Brazil.
Okay.
But yeah, he's amazing, dude. Like just like he like learned Blender inside and out, like, and he does a lot of like lyrics, video, animation stuff. So like it's
Okay.
crazy. But I'll
Cool.
definitely send you his information because I'm like you. It's like think in this day and age, especially with like AI, it's like you just have to be super competitive, and it kind of sucks being a creative because you have to like know a bunch of different stuff.
Hmm.
But it's just like in order to survive, it's like you have
I
to
tried
do
to
it.
keep up. Yeah, I tried to keep up with the whole Mid-Journey thing, honestly, because like I'll, I don't. There's no shame. I can't draw. I straight up. I'm not an illustrator, and I'm a graphic designer. And I do see, people like you, people that can draw on paper and paint and draw digitally. Like I can see why those people seem to, you know, uh, you know,
Yeah,
don't want
actually, I
to,
was going to ask
what
you
I
like
mean?
what
Like,
you think about AI.
yeah,
Uh,
I get where everyone's coming from on both sides. Like, because there's been plenty of times where like I don't use AI and then just slap a logo on it and then call it a day. I use AI like it's a stock image, or if like it's a resource that I found, deep on the internet or something. Like I know how to, there's ways to make things like the whole thing I do is like blend things together, like photo manipulation. So if I need a little foreground with some grass and a rock and I can't find the right stock photo and AI can help me, like I don't have any issue with that. I'm not, however, going to make something in AI and then just throw that out as the final product. That's stupid. Like I would be, I would be, and then to put that out there and be like, look what I did. Like that's, I don't, yeah, I can see why people get weird about that.
because I've kind of dabbled a little bit in AI, but mostly to extend photos. Like, and I
Hmm.
use Firefly because Photoshop has one embedded in its software now.
You're
Like
right.
sometimes I'll have a band photo I need for an event, and like
Yeah.
it's all like a square, and so I can like kind of make it taller or whatever, and that's like awesome.
Their arms are cropped off and you just need a little bit more arm to make it work. And then, yeah, I've done that plenty of times too. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff for a booking agency and they're always putting out graphics like our new signees of the week. And like they'll send me whatever photo they have and I need them to fit a certain way. And yeah, plenty of times where I've had to just whoop, extend the background and be able to, fit their whole head into a picture instead of just, yeah. So there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place. Like you wouldn't download a stock photo and then just have that be a final album cover either. So there's a time and a place and a way to, do what you can to make things cohesive. I think that's the most important part. But people are getting smart. People are like, you know, uh, I can. My accuracy isn't 100%, but like, we can spot AI a mile away, and a lot of other people, it might take them a while, or they just straight up can't. And especially some of the, people on Facebook seeing some of the AI stuff, they're like, "Oh my god, that's real! Oh my god!" And so that's the scariest part, honestly, is deceiving people into thinking something is real. That's the scariest part of AI. But as a graphic designer, I'm not like sometimes you kind of do want to deceive the viewer into like, wow, is that person really on fire? Like that, is that skeleton in that pallbearer thing? Is that really, so there's, like it's such a weird balance of what's art and what is misinformation. And I've actually seen I've seen some really cool AI art though. Like honestly, like there are some people who are really have some really advanced minds and they have the whole, their prompts must be insane because they are putting in genuinely creative prompts into the AI and they're getting some wild stuff. And the ability to tell a story with those outputs can be really impressive. Like you can post a whole carousel and have it be like if you have the right narrative to it, you can kind of take the viewer through this whole movie of different scenes and characters and stuff like that. So that's like intriguing. It's not like, you know, but what I'm saying is like it's getting harder to spot it, which is crazy. The more advanced it gets, the harder it
Oh
is
yeah.
for someone even with a trained eye. I tried my original point though is like I tried to keep on top of Midjourney and the updates and the new features and whatnot when it first started, and then if you miss like a week or two, you're just like good luck catching up. Like the stuff that they're doing now is it's crazy. But I don't want to talk, harp too much on it because you know, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, in the design community when you're talking about it. But I get both sides. And I'm gonna use it as if it can help me here and there, and I'm not gonna feel bad about it. And I wish people would stop, you know, uh, we don't need to embrace it yet. Like it's still working the kinks out. It might just, who knows what's gonna happen. I don't think anyone's at like risk of losing their job. It's up to the designer to make it work for them and not make them work. You know what I mean? Like make it work for you if you can. Like don't let it take your job. It's not going to take anybody's job. All these companies are saying like, oh, don't worry, we're not going to, resort to, but who knows? Like even if they're hiring people, those people might be using it. So it's such a weird thing. But
Yeah,
I don't want to harp on it too.
yeah, it's kind of like, maybe it'll be kind of, because digital art has always been kind of looked down upon anyway. I think now with like the AI, it's a little bit more like, now it's literally like, because people thought like 20 years ago, oh, digital art, it's easy, you just turn the computer on and then make some art and it's done. They don't realize all the skill that requires
Right.
you to like mask things and blend things in. But now it's like literally you type in words and it's like, but in your case, I can see that like adding some stock elements using AI to kind of embellish what you've already created. Like I have no issue with that, because essentially that's what you do when you purchase a stock photo anyway. Like, because I tend to, I tend to keep the main subject as something I render. So it's kind of like its own unique thing. But I've
Right.
definitely used like, skies and like backgrounds that are, stock images because, it's
Yeah.
just convenient and I don't have a great camera to, take photos either. So it's,
Right. Yeah, that's the one thing I did trying to lean to. I mean, after a while, um, I got my own camera, I don't know, probably 12 years ago, and just started taking it with me on vacations and trips and just snapping photos. You never know what you're gonna need in the future, like kind of like a hoarder mentality of just like I've got a Dropbox folder that's probably like 50 gigs of just raw files of photos that I haven't even opened. But there might be that one day where I need, a certain horizon with the cloud a certain way, or you never know, like you need something at a certain angle or whatever. And then I have a really good like if I've seen something before, I know I've seen it. And if I haven't seen something before, I know it's new to me. If that makes sense. Like if I'm just going through uh things, so like yeah, and you might just be in that situation where like I really need, that certain thing. Oh, I think I took a photo of that back when I was in this certain city, and then you go through, and you're like, ah. So, that's having my own photos has helped so much and with projects since then. But yeah, to be completely reliant on stock photos or AI, it's hard. It's because there's so many times where you wish you could do more, or you wish you had help, or that you turn down things because you just can't do them. So yeah, collaborating is really important. If you can find the yin to your yang, or the yang to your yin, or whatever that can help you with those certain things, it's really important. Because
yeah,
yeah,
I think,
the more you turn down things, I mean, the more that's less money going in your pocket. If you can say yes to more things and you have help, as a designer, like keep that money coming in. But just straight up like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't do video stuff. That's probably cost me thousands of dollars over the years. Like, like, oh, can you animate this? Like, nope, sorry. And so, man, I do have a lot more free time now. My computer is really old. I got like a 9-year-old iMac, so it's in no condition to like start doing video stuff. I can't even install the new Photoshop because it's telling me my graphics card isn't
oh,
up to
really?
date. So yeah, so it's time. I might go your route. You might have to show me little Mac Mini setup you got. But
Yeah, I was a PC person for, I mean, I did use Mac for a while, and then I kind of switched over when I started getting into more 3D stuff.
mhm.
But then I had two PCs die on me,
Yeah.
and the last one, it just like the hard drive or the power supply just died, and I replaced it. It still didn't work, so I was like, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna go back to Mac," and that's when I just bought my Mac Mini. And this is
Okay.
like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've had this for a little over a year now, and it's like it runs so great. It's like so quiet too. I mean, it's just like you don't even know it's
Awesome.
on. And
How big of a monitor? I would have got the new iMacs don't go up to 27 inches anymore. So there's no point. Like I need a 27-inch screen. I'm not going to 24. I refuse. And they're all like weird and colorful now. So I'm like at this point, like, do I wait for them to come out with a new iMac in hopes that they bring the 27-inch screen back? Or do I go your route? And I think I'm leaning that way. So yeah, hook me up some specs after this.
yeah, I think
What
the
you got?
traditional, like, built-in iMacs are kind of going to get sort of
Phased out.
yeah, phased out, and they're kind of leaning towards like just like Mac Mini. So it's like, I mean, I have a pretty small monitor, only like a 22-inch monitor or whatever, because I don't really,
Okay.
I just have the one, and I like to kind of just work on one thing at a time anyway, so it works perfectly for me. But yeah, it just gives you the option. You can kind of have a bigger screen, and it's like I have this cool little stand too that it just like it almost looks like a little mini tower.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's pretty cool. But
So yeah, I can't see myself going smaller than 27. I can go up to 30 probably, but yeah, I really like to see the big picture of everything. I don't know. I've always worked really big, and I think it's helped a lot. But yeah, man, time for a new rig. This thing, like the graphics card, like if I do like any kind of like heavy scrolling, if I'm on a website and I start like just scrolling down the page, like the screen like starts just, and then it'll just go black for like
oh
10
yeah,
seconds, and then it wakes up and there's all these little like dots and lines across the screen, so I have to hard restart from the back, and then it turns on, and it's like it's just all, oh, I'm sorry, for like a day, and then but I've been dealing with that for like 5 years. Like it'll do that to me like 2 or 3 times a month at least, where it just the graphics card just wigs out, and I've just been putting off getting a new one um, for so long. The label actually turned me down. I was like, "Can I get a new like iMac?" And they're like, "Yeah, send the specs over." So I sent over specs of what I wanted, and they're like, "Jesus Christ, like no, man, we're not gonna."
that's like $4,000.
No, it was more like fucking like 7 or something like that. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
like, I need this, like hooked up all the way, 27 inches. Yes, please. And they're like, "No, dude." Like, I was like, "Okay, I'll just keep dealing with my broken iPad." Oh well, but
Yeah, that's very. It's like even no matter how big the company, it's just like we're just gonna try to keep the costs as low as we can, pay the employees as low as we can, as long as we can get away with it.
oh,
And
that's where they tried to get me. They were like, my boss told me, he's like, "Well, if you were in the office, maybe, but you're," kind of like implying like you should probably think about, coming out to the
okay,
office instead of working from home. And I was like, sorry, but hey,
so
I can't bring him to the office.
oh yeah, yeah. See, that's I was just gonna ask you like because you've been said freelance for a year and a half, 2 years.
Like a year, February 8th, or no, I'm sorry. That's when I moved to, in January, it's been a year. Yeah. So a year
Okay,
and a month now.
and would you say that like now that you've kind of your anxiety has gone down a little bit, do you think you like being a freelance, like having to kind of go out and search for work, or is it something that's like because I know like sometimes it's like I was always like I want to do freelance and leave my job and just work on this, but then I kind of miss that steady paycheck of just like every couple
Yeah.
weeks, and it's just
Yeah.
like
I would really like to have like a retainer or two, just to have that base going into every month. That's really important. I will say like what ended up kind of like hurting me in the beginning and then helping me in the end is, I mean, the busier you are, if some people end up lagging on payment, that sucks at first, But there is a point where you get to where you go into a new month with people owing you money. And that is almost like, if you can kind of get to that point, if you save enough, if you do it the right way, if you're going into every month knowing that people still owe you money and that they might pay you that month, that's a lot better than just going into a new month just flat zero. So at first it sucked. I was like, oh man, this, Warner or Live Nation, or the bigger the company, the longer they take to pay you.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
so,
dude. It's totally,
so
yeah, totally true, man.
and yeah, so I ran into that. I was like, man, I could really use that check. And then it got to the point where like I got to a month and had some money set aside, and I realized like, oh wow, I still have like 1,000 or 1,500 still waiting to come in. So that makes you feel better. So that can be, yeah, something that looks terrible at first, and then it can kind of work out to you if you keep busy enough. And for me, it's been almost scary because it seems like now that I'm freelance, every time I'm just about to wrap something up, someone else will hit me up. It hasn't been to the point where I'm just so stacked to where I'm not like, oh yeah, let me book you in for 3 weeks from now. It's like I've never been at that point, and it's just been really, it's been ups and downs, and like this month has been pretty slow. December is always really slow. Everyone is checked out in the music industry, just doing holidays and stuff. So that's something to keep in mind too if you're, a freelancer. Like, know when the waves are going to come, and going into summer seems to be when people are really busy. There's a lot of summer tours, and there's no like Warped Tour or anything anymore, but people don't really like to tour in the winter anymore, so it's a lot of summer tours. And yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. I'm getting lost again, but
Oh no, just yeah, you answered my question. Just kind of like, yeah, I kind of go through the same thing where it's like I'll have some invoices that haven't been paid, and I'm like, I took some savings out to kind of transfer. I mean, luckily my wife is working full time, and
nice.
we own our house, so like we pretty much pay less than like most people pay for like rent in this area,
Oh
because
man.
I live in the Central Coast, like near Monterey, Santa Cruz. So it's
Okay.
kind of a expensive area, but we managed to get a house that was like 10 years ago that was like cheaper, so we were able to get
Yeah.
a better deal. But yeah, it's like I'm cheap anyway, so like it kind of like I'm able to budget my money really well, and like save and all that stuff. So it kind of comes in handy. But yeah, it's like if you have that little cushion of like, okay, I have X amount of money to pay the bills, and I know this band or this company is going to pay me hopefully next week. And there's that
Hopefully,
like
yeah.
hope of like, okay, I'm not like completely like there's like dry nothing,
Right.
and like gives you peace of mind.
Yeah, that's when I freak out, when there's just radio silence, like in December, when I just, those first couple of weeks of December where you're just not hearing from anybody at all, and you're like, what's going on? I still need to make some money. But yeah, just like a cautionary tale to, if people are just getting into, I hope that there's people watching this that are like just kind of starting this path of like, hey, I can make money doing this. And like, so I guess that's kind of like the root of most of what I've said today, kind of comes back to like just being cautious and not like falling into certain traps or shooting yourself in the foot or backing yourself into a corner, and knowing how to navigate that. I think that's kind of been like the core of everything that we've talked about today, honestly. Just like, hey, watch out for this, don't do that. Like, if you can do this, do it. If not, know what else to do, know how to pivot. That's I've always tried to like, I hope that people know that they can chat with me, and I've chatted with a lot of people and answered a lot of questions, and just given feedback where people have asked for it. And I love that part of being able to like, there's so many things I wish I knew when I started that I know now that I didn't know then. Like, there's so many. I didn't know what kerning was for years, dude. I had no idea what kerning was. I saw, and then someone pointed out like kerning's weird on that, and I was like, I felt so stupid. What are you talking about? Like, it's some of my old logos were just like type, brush, threshold, fucking look it up. Here you go.
Yeah.
Looking back in it now, I'm like, geez, I gotta clean that up quite a bit. But but then like not just like design things too, because I'm self-taught. I don't know. No one ever showed me how to do this stuff. Like I figured it out, and there's so many things I'm probably not doing the right way, or you know what I mean. And they're really who's to say that there is a right way to do anything when it comes to art? But like little tips and tricks, like knowing that there are features in there, like that little like blend if you pull up the blending options on something and it has those little the bottom sliders, the little black and white sliders, the little
Oh
blend if
yeah.
sliders. I didn't know what those did until like 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't tell you how handy those have come in. Like that's some of the most powerful shit in Photoshop right there. Like the
Dude.
blend if, and like dude, and then you can put that, if you can put a bunch of stuff into a group and do the blend if on the entire group, you know how easy that makes like shirt designs where you need to remove the entire black, remove all the black background, just that little slider. Whoop. I don't know. I would have been color like, was it select color? I would have been wanding shit out fucking 10 years ago. No one ever told me anything about the blend if sliders. And that's gradient maps. I didn't know what a gradient map did until like 5 years ago. Like, dude, so that's one thing. But navigating as a graphic designer, like making money, trying to make it your career, that's like a whole other part of it. And knowing how to network and knowing that your relationships that you make with people are they're going to keep you floating. Like you never know when you're going to hear from your client from 2 years ago. He might be ready for a new album again and he comes back to you. It's like, oh great, I'm glad you came back to me. Billy or Billy Bob, whoever it is, like it's so important to just like, just be a good person, be cool, be easy to work with, be relatable, don't be a robot, you know what I mean? Like, and just be personable with these people. Don't punish them to death, don't annoy them, don't be like, hey, what do you think? Just know how to, like, that's the more important part of things, is like building those relationships. Because you never know when they're gonna come back. Hopefully they keep coming back.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of where social media nowadays comes to play, because I can do some work for a band, I can add them on Facebook, and I can kind of see what they're doing. I can see when they're recording. I can kind of like hint like, hey, like I see you're in the studio. Like, do you need any artwork? And you can kind of, and they can kind of see who you are too, because that's important. Like with the client, if they look at you and they trust you with their vision or whatever, and they kind of see, okay, this person seems like a cool person, and I want to work with this person. And like you said, you keep in touch with these people, because I've had so many repeat clients come back because of that reason. I've added them and I've kept in touch with them. So it's definitely, that's part of the thing being a freelance graphic designer too, is like being sociable and like friendly, and kind of like not being closed off and all that stuff. And I'm kind of like, obviously I'm doing this with guys that look up to, like you and all the others, but like, I like meeting other artists. I like meeting bands. I mean, I wish I could go to more shows. Just like I'm become such a recluse now that I work from home, but like I should need to get out more so I can kind of like network more. But
sure, it depends on where where you're located too. I mean, I know a lot of designers that are from middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania or whatever, and they have to drive like, or they don't really get to go to shows, or get shows don't even come to them. They might be in super rural areas. So I mean, getting that's a whole different kind of networking, honestly. Getting out and having business cards and doing that stuff. There's been so many times where I wish I had a business card on me, and I go to a place that I really like, a coffee shop that I really like, and I can tell that they really need some help in the merch department, whatever, and I'm just it would be I really need some business cards. Be like, hey, if you need some help, like making this stuff actually look good. Like give me a call maybe. But I will say, hey, I have my battery has 6%
Okay,
juice,
yeah.
and I
I have,
didn't bring my charger in here, so
yeah. I guess, yeah. We can actually wrap it up too, because
I
it's
just
been
don't
a
want to get
little.
cut off. So I just want to let you know. Yeah.
Okay. Um. So last question. Any like, I know you've worked with a lot of big bands, working for Sumerian and all that stuff, but are there any like dream projects, like whether it be another huge band or like a movie studio, or like how do you have
Yeah,
any?
yeah. I mean, I crossed my number one off a few years ago. I did some Led Zeppelin designs. And I got some approvals. It was through Araka, like their merch company. I don't know if Robert or Jimmy any of the actual guys saw my designs, but I got a couple design approvals for Led Zeppelin, and that it's all been downhill from there. But I will say, like, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I always have been. I would love to do stuff for WWE um, in some capacity. I mean, even just like a shirt design. I don't know what I could do for them. They probably have a huge team, but that's probably the next big goal. And as far as like bands go, I think uh, Rage Against the Machine is probably my next big one to check off. I think they've always been, a lifelong favorite band of mine. So got to get some Rage design. I've had friends that have been working on Rage stuff, and they don't even like know. They don't even like. I've never listened to Rage Against the Machine, but I just got sort of hit up from like,
See, that's when you start, because I think we're kind of close in age. I'm 42, but
Mhm.
like, yeah, we're kind of around that same age where there's people that don't know certain bands that we grew up with, and
Yeah,
you're just like, damn. Like,
yeah, yeah. And so, but yeah, yeah, Rage, WWE, number one. That's my favorite like company in the world, and it's such a good like golden time for them right now. So if I can hop in on that somehow, that'd be great. But for now, I'm doing, I'm having fun riding the wave of real life and hanging out with my family and my cats and getting fresh air and not having. I still have some anxiety, but it's not like debilitating anymore to the point
yeah.
where I'm like sick. So yeah, things are going good. But yeah, I mean, just as like a final uh closing word, because I have 4% here, like um just what do I want to say to people?
Yeah, let's
um
give you a shout out, just so anybody you want to, because I know like I get so many views on my channel here, so I'm just kidding.
Hey, you're building, you're this I applaud. Yeah, kudos to you for trying something new. I mean, this is great. I don't have the social battery to do what you're doing right now and to be asking all these questions and stuff. And then I find myself like just rant like, bleh. This is kind of like a therapy
Well, no,
session for me in a way. I'm
it's
just like,
good. 'Cause Less
yeah,
less of my, I don't have to do a lot of work. I just let you talk. So I'm like,
good, yeah, perfect. So
well, yeah, it's
I'm glad that
perfect.
worked out. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I don't really have any final words. Just like I said, to recap, just know your strengths, and if you have there's certain things you can't do, try to network and find other people that can help you. Always try to bundle things together and ask them if someone wants something from you, see if they need anything else on top of that, because they probably do and they probably haven't thought about it yet. And just don't be a punisher. Like, know when to check in on things. Don't be too like clingy. Don't, hey, so what do you think? Hey, oh, what do you think? So hey, did you get it? Just let things kind of naturally breathe. And and save money if you can, because when you're,
Yes.
yeah, it's something I didn't do living in Los Angeles or Las Vegas. I never saved money until I moved to Albuquerque. So yeah, save. You never know when some months are going to go just radio silent. It can happen to anybody. So
All right,
that's all I
Daniel.
got.
Well, I appreciate you, man, taking the time out of your day to do this. Means a lot. And I'm going to be leaving a link to all your work and below the video.
Okay.
So, but yeah, thank you guys for checking this out, and see you on the next one.
Thank you.